Didn't I sign that? Okay. Now we're going to try and figure out why we might have taken that. Now, why would anyone want to talk about in a business class, personalities and personality tests? Any ideas? Have you had any experience with that? Why would business use personality testing and psychological testing and things like that?
To know, like, on paper who and work well together.
Okay. One thing, so if you have somebody that's extremely shy and somebody that's very extroverted, depending on the project, it could be if you're doing sales, you want extroverted people there. If you're doing analytics, you probably want introverted people. Makes sense, right? If you were hiring, would it help to have a personality test? Or if, like, I had to take one time when I went from being a technical network administrator, they wanted to make me a manager, so they gave me a test to see if I had the qualities, and they said I had good strategic vision, and I was enthusiastic, and I motivated people, but I was very bad with detail. At the time, I ignored that, but years later, I took it out of my file. I read it. I said, "That's exactly my problem. If it gets boring, I'm a little sloppy. I gotta watch that." There are some tests that. So you don't have any experience at all with personality tests? Zero. You've never even heard of them. How about astrology? Isn't that a personality thing?
I did like the other personalities. That wasn't DISC. It was like
Big Five.
Yeah.
Big Five is very useful too. But so what are some of the reasons? One reason is that we are, I don't think I need scientific proof to suggest that most people are concerned with themselves most of the time. So a lot of times you get into a situation where, let's say you're not dressed as well as you would like, or you're not at your best, and you're thinking everyone's seeing this and everyone cares about, what's happening with you, and in fact they couldn't care less for not even noticing you, and you're nervous for nothing, because basically people are constantly thinking about how do I feel, what do I want, what do I think, right? It's tough to get out of that. We also tend to project on others. So if you're, like, for example, an outgoing person, you might assume everyone wants to, immediately go to a party with lots of people. Everyone should like that, right? Makes sense? Don't people project themselves onto others, what they like, they value, they perceive, they assume other people hold similar, and they're kind of shocked. You don't like hockey? How can you not like hockey? Hockey's fantastic, Movie I recommend, Being There. Great movie. I won't tell you about it because it'll ruin it. One thing also is, because we're so self-involved, we're not very self-aware. In other words, we project ourselves onto others, so we don't see a lot of fundamental differences between us and others, and how you can really look at the world in a very dramatically different way. So that's in part, students ask why they should take general studies classes like anthropology, etc. Done correctly, an anthropology class is going to convince you about how very differently and fundamentally different people can see the world, which should make you more aware of yourself and how your own feelings, your own values, your own preferences are just one take on the world, and there's lots of other takes that are fundamentally different. A lot of people simply don't realize that. And so one way is you take this test, you find out more about yourself, discuss it with others, And then on top of that, one of the reasons why, textbooks are useful, and I agree, there's a lot of problems with them, but at the same time, there's certain terminology that if you have the terminology, it helps you to think about things. If you don't have the terminology, then it's very difficult to engage in a certain topic. And so, the other value of this is you get additional terms, concepts, ideas, and then that allows you to think about this, and also allows you to communicate and get into dialogue with other people, which you can further enhance your learning. So that would be the reason why we're doing this. Has anyone heard of Myers-Briggs? This is probably the most popular one. Very briefly, it's not scientifically validated, but a lot of businesses still use it, so keep it in mind. You might want to keep some notes here. Okay, why are we looking at our laptops? I thought we're taking notes, right? Handwritten notes? We're not looking at our laptops, right? Those laptops. Laptops down, phones away. Okay, what does it mean to be scientifically valid? Very briefly, this is an aside, it's not something I'm going to test you on, but basically it's reliability and validity. In other words, what is validity is? Is that test actually measuring the thing you're saying it is? That's validity. Is it valid? The second thing is it reliable? In other words, can anyone replicate that? Can you'll find a relationship between A and B today. Are you going to find that tomorrow? Are you going to find it the next day? Is it reliable? Myers-Briggs is neither of those things. In other words, it doesn't refer to anything. It doesn't predict anything in the real world, like career success, relationship success, anything. Predicts nothing. So it's invalid. Plus, it's unreliable. You're never going to find a statistical relationship with that, which suggests that relationship will stand through time. So that's a very brief introduction to science, by the way. That's pretty much the old science. So this is what she was going to show you today, the disc. So we've all taken our disc, and we've looked at that. So what is disc? One is, these are 4 dimensions. Now people aren't extremely one thing or another. They might be in between them. Another is influence, dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. Okay, so has anyone seen the TV show The Office? Remember the characters there? Who are the characters? There's Michael the boss. Who else? Dwight. He's kind of the geeky guy. Who else? Jim, kind of a cool guy. Pam, the nice receptionist. Okay, so who's dominant? If you've seen the show, who would be dominant? Dwight. Okay, good. Who's the influencer? Who's the one always talking? Michael, good. You guys are good. How about who's steady? Who's the one that's always agreeable, even-tempered, patient, humble, always, making sure people feel okay, never getting into any conflict with people? Pam. Very good. You guys are so far 100%. Conscientiousness. Who's the person who wants to see the numbers? They don't care about your opinion. They don't care how you feel. They don't care that you got a puppy this weekend. They want to see the numbers. They want to make a decision based on the facts. No, you haven't seen it yet? How about, what's her name again? Is it Pamela? Angela. Yeah, Angela. Okay, so she's kind of the uptight one that always gets the stuff right. Again, this slide just shows you that you can be placed in between these things, so the dot, shows these are not extremes one way or the other. There's a lot of different styles. So, why does TTI use this? And what she would say is, you want to basically use this to communicate with other people. So you would know other people's disc scores, and then they would know yours, and based on that, you would actually manage how you communicate with them. Make sense? Understand what motivates them. What do they need in communication, and so on and so forth, and what you might need to help them with in coaching, because they might have some deficits indicated. So you give coaching to people. So how would you communicate with a dominant person? Okay, let's just think about this briefly. In your groups, talk about dominant, influence, conscientious person, and steady person. How would you talk to those people? What's the last thing?
Yeah, I would say kind of talk about where you want to end. Influence. She's kind of
predominance, right? Yeah. Like how very grounded person. I don't know. Like how would you like say you're giving them conversations, just how do you yourself talking to them? But like at some point, so I'm talking to a common person. Yeah, but I kind of talk to them just make sure they understand. Like say, make sure they're straightforward. That works. Honestly, I think it doesn't work so much as like when you talk to a blind person, you do just all right.
Steadiness. There is going to accommodate stuff.
Talk to a person that's there, you need one.
I talked to them how much they indicate, or another they indicate.
What's the last name again?
What's actually agree.
That's you? You're an A then. Where's A? Do we have an A here today? They're all gone? Okay, are you A? Okay, just go sit down. Back. What's the last name? G. Is G here? G as in George? Yes? No? Maybe? Just find somebody today to talk to. You can stay there and talk to them. Okay, so how do you talk to dominant people? What are your thoughts?
You just want to be like straightforward, your style of communication.
Yeah. You want to get things done. You want, you're not wasting time, right? And so on and so forth. you're action oriented, you're making sure stuff gets done. How about if you're an influencer? You're walking in to talk to an influencer. How are you going to prepare for that? No idea?
No, I'm kind of off.
I would approach them like straightforward, but like back it up with like factual evidence, I guess. No. It might be like more personable.
Yeah. Do you start talking immediately about the spreadsheet?
Yes, I would do. Yes, basically ask about that more.
Yeah. How was the weekend? You know, how about that Giants game? You know, so on and so forth. And then finally get around to the spreadsheet, which he doesn't care less. He couldn't care less about. How about the steady person? How would you approach them?
To make it like they're like doing like me a favor. So like if I need something done, it's like something that like to help me out with. Because they want to accommodate.
Yeah. So how do you? So what's going to make them respond to you? In other words, should you yell at them? Should you go on and on about your puppy at home? What should you do?
I feel like part of it, if you're a dominant person, then you would work really well with a steady person because if you come at them like really wanting to do something, I think they'll most likely get along if you're passionate about it.
It could be that certain combinations are, we're not going to get into that in this class. You could probably, there's an entire class to do that. And I'm not sure if there's a lot of research on that either, other than that. But I mean, it just makes common sense, But a steady person, you're not, basically you're going to assure them that everything's okay, you're not angry, the relationship's fine, and that's what they want. They want to make sure that no one is, going to be, fighting or upset or feel lonely and things like that, right? Conscientious person, how are you going to approach them?
You're going to approach them in a very analytical manner. Like, say you think they aren't like inputting some numbers right, you take up a spreadsheet and you more or less point to where they're doing like wrong. I feel like they might respond a lot better to like analysis.
Yeah, they're gonna want to see everything logically laid out step by step, and they're gonna want to see the data. They don't care about your opinion. They couldn't care less about your puppy. What they want is, is there data to back up what you're saying? If there's not, then they don't want to hear about it. So I forget her name. Angela. So Angela, what was her job? Does anyone remember? What was her position? No one remembers Angela? No? She was the accountant. Mike up there is the influencer. He's the manager. Steady one is Pam, receptionist, and then it just makes sense. I mean, she's an accountant. Alrighty, and that's actually on. I've already posted this, so if you're curious, you want to go through. This is what they suggest. How you should approach these people. So it's well worth reading through, which we don't have time for. This is. We may not have time for this, but this is. I like this so much. I figured. Okay. Why do I care about that?
Okay, so we've established that everyone is different, right? But here's the cool thing. They are predictably different. We all are. And because of that, we can actually predict how people will act or react in a given situation. Our world is made up of 4 types of people. There's dominant, or the D style, influencing, which is the I style, steady, or the S style, and compliant, the C style. Generally speaking, those are the personality types of the people you interact with every day. And I'll let you in on a little secret. You're one of them. Let's take a look. We've all been waiting on an elevator and seen the girl who presses the button, steps back and looks at the button again, then presses it again. and again and again. Yeah, that's a D style. She has places to go and people to see. She's probably always in a hurry, so then she'll tap and hold the button, frustrated, thinking she can actually make it move faster. D styles are dominant, direct, and results-driven people who want to control their environment and then do something to make a difference in their world. Now, let's take a look at the I style. She is Talky Talkerton. Once the doors open to the elevator, she's the one who turns around and starts talking to nobody in particular about pretty much anything. She's an influencer. When the elevator stops, she's the jokester who quips, "Third floor, lingerie, enjoy your day." Now, not all I styles are cheesy people who tell mom jokes all the time, but you see what I mean. Eyes draw energy from people and love to engage. Now, here comes little Miss C style. She's the quiet one. She's kind of off to the side, standing in the front of the elevator, looking at the plaque that reads, "Maximum weight, 2,500 pounds." She's calculating body weight. Uh-oh. If one more person gets on, we're gonna go down. She's on a schedule, but she's allowed herself plenty of time. She's compliant, she knows the rules, obeys the rules, and wants everyone else to do the same. Look at her. How cute. Enter the S personality. She's stable, steady, and keenly aware of her surroundings. She wants everyone to be happy, and she thinks it's her job to make it so. She's the one holding the elevator door open to make sure everyone who wants to get on can do so at their leisure. Meanwhile, Miss D's in the back huffing and puffing about needing to get to her meeting. The S will even take the stairs if there's not enough room for Miss I, who keeps everyone waiting while she finishes her mocha latte frappuccino thing. Harmony and steadiness are a big deal to the S. As a leader, it's important to know these DISC styles so you can begin to better understand the people around you. It's also important to understand that we are all a blend of these styles. Sure, we can adapt those blends based on our environment or when a specific situation calls for one style over the other. But more often than not, we've all got to accept our DISC and learn to live, work, and play and accept these basic truths. So there you have it. We're all different, but we are predictably different. So I was telling this joke and my grandma was like, "Oh, that's so funny," and I was like, "No,
Okay, one interesting term there is predictably different. Why did you say predictably? And that's the key. In other words, there's astrology, right? You've heard of astrology. So what's the validity and reliability of astrology? Does anyone know? Who here is a Gemini?
Can you just repeat the question?
Hmm?
Can you just repeat the question?
What is the validity and reliability of astrology in predicting what people will do and say and feel?
It's not very valid, but the way people perceive it is that the months are the time. So when you are born will have a great impact on your personality, how you will act, how you approach different social situations.
Yeah, and it's very similar to these personality test categories, you know, that people have, and the difference. I mean, I would say astrology is valuable. At least it gives you terms. It allows you to think about things, but it's not predictive. It's not, predictably reliable. In other words, once you get to a scientifically verified set of categories, those things can predict actual real-world results. For example, you have 4 of those things. You have dominant, direct, decisive, influencing, inspiring, impulsive. You have steady, stable, sympathetic, compliant, correct, and conscientiousness. Which one of these 4 is most closely associated with career success? That would be a test of validity. If you can actually reliably categorize people in these ways, then you can say, well, which one has better career success? Is that statistically shown or not? Dominance, influence, steady, or compliant? Correct, conscientious.
Just based off what we think.
Just your intuition. Okay, dominant. Anybody else? I would guess that too.
Are we thinking of a specific career or just?
No, in general. It's actually conscientiousness. So, in other words, why should you be interested in this? These scores actually have shown to be related to things in the real world you care about. That's validity. Plus reliability, meaning that, you know, these things don't change all that much. Make sense? Here are my results. I was real surprised that I was more dominant than anything else, but after 25 years of teaching, if you're not dominant, you get in trouble. So I'm actually a very introverted person, but, you know, over time you can change those things. You know, so it's what the phrase is, eat the frog. Has anyone ever heard that phrase? That means do the thing you don't want to do first, because you're going to find a way to weasel out of it, and that's the way you change yourself. Okay, in groups, share and compare your disc scores, and the group decides whether they make sense or not, given your knowledge of each other. And then, you know, how might you communicate with people, you know, given those things. Just, you know, just take a few minutes. Okay. So, you know, the purpose of this is just so you're aware of that these tests exist. There is also the Big Five. The Big Five has a lot of scientifically valid aspects to it. I'm not going to go over it. The slides are here. If you want to know more about it, I can give you lots of references for it. But it should be also well worth your while to get to know that a little bit. I have some slides I want to skip here. Fair warning, have you ever heard of the dark triad? Have you ever met a person you thought was just evil?
Yeah.
What are they like?
Evil.
How do you know they're evil? Do they have something tattooed on their head? What's
Actions, personality, their energy. You just like feel it. They're just not like a happy person.
They're quicker to say things that you wouldn't say.
Well, unhappiness is not necessarily evil. It is evil. It is evil you know, because evil is in a sense is like doing harm to others. It's not, if you're unhappy, you're not really doing harm to others, you're just unhappy. So, but we have to get past the vibe. What in their behavior is just evil?
They're not sympathetic.
What else?
They lack general empathy.
Okay.
Oh,
Aggressive.
Maybe excessively.
Selfish drivers.
What was that? Selfish what?
Selfish desires.
Okay, what are some of the terms out there? What are some of the psychological terms? They could be medical terms or popular terms for those people.
Narcissist.
Narcissist? What else? What else? What's a narcissist? Does anyone know?
Things they like to obsess with yourself.
Yeah, you're obsessed with yourself. How do you know a narcissist? How do you, I mean, what would it be like interacting with them?
They don't really ask you about yourself.
Right. Well, you know, they're basically, the narcissist is may ask you about yourself because they know that's a way of bringing you in. In other words, they'll manipulate you to think they actually care. If they're intelligent, they can actually fool you at first. But eventually, it's going to be all about them. They really couldn't care less about you. And what they want is attention, 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 attention. And they want to dominate and control, and that's it. There's two types of narcissists. There's, people who tend towards being narcissistic, and then there's clinical narcissists. Clinical narcissists are made that way by their parents. They will never actually change. And this is in part why I want to bring this up. There's other things called, have you ever heard of sociopath, psychopath? How about a Machiavellian? Probably not a Machiavellian.
Wait, what's a
Oh, you have-
sociopath mean?
Sociopath?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Sociopath is going to be a person who was born normally, but they didn't get the right upbringing. Same thing with a narcissist. Basically, if from 0 to 5 years old, if you get no love and affection, you're going to end up being either a narcissist or a sociopath, meaning you cannot have empathy for anybody else. You cannot recognize other people as human beings that are valuable in and of themselves. Everyone else is just an object for your use or your manipulation, and you just enjoy manipulating and using people. If you're a smart sociopath, you'll eventually hide that behavior because people are going to beat you up in the schoolyard if you keep doing that. So they eventually can mimic a lot of ordinary relationships, but they don't really feel it. Psychopath is born that way, basically the same stuff. But even if the parents are perfect to that kid, the kid was born without all the wires in his head hooked up. And there's a lot of people. Well, they're not necessarily out there serial. They're not killing people. Most of them are perfectly functional. A lot of them are CEOs. Think about how focused somebody, manipulative you have to be a CEO. Then there's also Machiavellians, which is being very manipulative. And then there's narcissists. So why would I bring this stuff up? Well, one of the reasons is that I came across this several times in my life. And the thing to do here is to identify them and then get the hell away from them. You cannot reason with them. You cannot discuss anything with them. You cannot negotiate with them. It's just going to be a relentless nightmare. You either have to contain them, wall them off, or get the hell away from them. Don't waste your time trying to think something can be sorted out with these people. They cannot be done. All right. I also have some